the folks at Microsoft, I have 130, Mr.
All right.
Chair.
Great, rock and roll. Roll call, please, Neil.
Sir, Gary Delvo.
Yes.
Matt Schuler.
Here.
Alder Dorf.
Here.
Debbie Dean.
Here.
Kathy Hinkfist.
We didn't hear you,
I think I
Kathy.
saw Kathy.
Yeah, she must have been.
Oh, yep. Okay, excuse me. Okay, we've got Kathy here. Melanie Parma.
Here.
Wow, great turnout. Excellent. Motion to approve the agenda, please.
So moved.
Uh,
I'll second it.
Okay, Melody and a second by Alder Dorf. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Approval of minutes from March 9th. Motion, please.
I'll make that motion, Gary.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Made a motion. And second by Kathy, right? No, I'm just teasing. Somebody's
Second.
got
Second.
okay. Second by Alder Dorf. So the motion is made and second to approve the minutes from March 9th, 2021. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. Regular business. Consideration with possible action on agreement with JBS for the donation of tax parcels 23-243-1 and B-243-4 along with a monetary donation of $500,000. Cheryl, please.
Actually, I think we're going to ask Mayor Gingrich if you want to provide some introductory comments for us. That would be most appreciated, sir.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. Are you guys seeing my screen yet?
Yes.
We're good.
Okay. Yeah, so we've been engaged in this conversation with JBS, and Brian, who represents the facilities team, is on the call with us today. Really appreciate the work that he and the rest of the folks locally here at JBS have been engaged in to bring us to this point. This is a really, I think, exciting opportunity for us as a city. We don't have a lot of developable land within the city of Green Bay, and to be able to develop this greenfield, nearly 26 acres of greenfield in the city of Green Bay is a pretty unique opportunity. In addition to that, we have the $500,000 donation that we will put to good use to benefit the community as well. So, you have the parcel map here in front of you. To orient folks a little bit, this is on really the southeast side of town. So right in between the Kroc Center to the west, and then to the east is the east side Walmart there. So this has frontage on Guns Road. This parcel would have frontage on Guns Road. The big parcel that's highlighted here is in the city of Green Bay. That smaller kind of grayed out parcel is actually in the village of Bellevue. Mm-hmm. And so I know Neil has reached out to their administration to let them know that this donation was moving forward. But again, just very excited by this opportunity.
Yes.
At this stage, we have some broad ideas of what we'd like to do there. It certainly would involve a community garden almost on the urban farm. I'm getting a little feedback.
If anybody who's not, if you could please mute your microphone if you're not speaking right now, that'd be great. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks. So as I was saying, we have kind of a broad vision for what we'd like to see here. Obviously, want to get input from the community as well. But what we're thinking is some community gardens, almost to the scale of an urban farm, a destination playground that would be of benefit to the children and families in the neighborhood, but also invite hopefully a lot of traffic from the community, from the region into this area of town. And then also, some mixed income housing development here. I think many of you who have been involved in some of these RDA discussions or just city discussions generally over the years are familiar with Imperial Pride neighborhood, yes, which is just to the north there. Yes. And unfortunately there was just a lot of bad planning and some, absentee landlords involved in that development. And so we are really interested in improving the quality of that neighborhood, providing some great housing opportunities for people of all income levels in this area. So at this stage, we are asking, I am asking, and our staff is asking for our RDA to accept this donation. Again, feel like this is a tremendous benefit to the city of Green Bay, to our taxpayers. One quick note on that, on taxes real quick, one potential downside or, think something that folks might think about is, well, if we're taking this off the tax rolls, what's the implication of that? And just so people know, this is categorized as ag land. So as a result, its tax value is really low. So they only pay a couple $100s a year to the city of Green Bay in taxes, in spite of the fact that it is, 25 acres of property here. So not much of a downside there, to my mind, really just upside in terms of what we're going to be able to offer to the community as far as the amenities concerned, and also that housing, which is such a priority for both the RDA and for the city of Green Bay and my administration. So with that, invite members to ask any questions that you have or provide any input for us.
Or if Brian might have some comments potentially from JBS, if you'd be so kind maybe as to open the floor.
Entertain a motion to open the floor.
So moved.
Alder Dorf, second by?
I'll second.
Second by Melody, I believe. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Open floor, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having us. My name is Brian Cabian. I'm the HR director at JBS Green Bay, and I have here our general manager, Hitcham Time Jardin. I'll have him talk about, just kind of say a little thing about this partnership.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hitcham Time Jardin. I'm presenting JBS here in Green Bay as a general manager here. Really excited and happy that with partnership with the city and this project will move forward. That will be helping the community and the people of Green Bay. Really, the first time when me and Brian talked to the city, we really, our future is to be partnership with the city and help our team members as well that work in JBS and their families out there that they live in the east side.
Okay, very good.
Great.
Any other comments from the public or anyone else outside of the committee? If not, yes, Alder Dorf.
It just seems to me, I was remembering, is this where a library was going to go at one point?
So that's a great question, Alder. There was some reporting that was done on some of the discussions that we've had with JBS, which also involved the county and some of the library administration. I think it's still an open question where the Brown County Library System would like to locate their East Branch. There was just a recent story, I think last week, talking about how I think it's the Ed and Rec Committee was moving forward with improvements, authorizing improvements, either renovation or reconstruction of an East Branch library. So we feel very strongly that to locate that East Branch library, say within mile radius of its current location, would be ideal for our East Side residents. I also feel that if we were to potentially place that library on Guns Road, it's some great frontage right across from Walmart East, which probably has some of the highest traffic counts in the city of Green Bay. But also respect the fact that this is a decision that needs to be made by the library board, library administration, and our county government. But feel like this would be a great location for an East Branch library. I think East Town Mall also has some real advantages. So as they continue to work through their process, I'll continue to be a strong advocate for locating the East Branch library either in this area or potentially over at East Town.
Okay.
I have one more thing.
Yes,
I
please.
just wanted to say thank you to JBS. This is just a wonderful donation, and I'm just very excited to see that the housing that might be put up for the people that work at JBS. And I sincerely appreciate your willingness to work with the city and to do this for us. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ditto. Yeah.
Excellent. Is there, there's no other comments from the public? I'll entertain a motion, get back to regular business, please.
I'll make the motion, Gary.
I'll make a motion.
A motion by Matt, second by Kathy. Questions or comments? If not, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I oppose. Okay, we're back.
Aye.
We're back to regular business. Cheryl, this must very much be right in line with our housing study.
Oh, absolutely. You know, we'll be talking about that later in the meeting when we talk about our affordable housing plan going forward. But the creation of additional units along with a super cool playground and maybe some unconventional urban gardening, something we haven't seen before. Staff is very excited about this project.
Very good. Comments or questions, or otherwise I'll entertain a motion.
Hey, Gary, just one
Matt,
quick
please.
question. And this is Matt, and this can go to Neil, might be Cheryl, might be Vanessa, and two, very appreciative of this donation by JBS. And just one thing I want to make sure that I understand, and if there's any complications raised by this, I saw in Exhibit B, you know, in the document, it talks about, you know, naming rights in perpetuity. And perpetuity is a really long time. And I just wondered if there's does that pose any kind of challenges for us as a city, as opposed to some really long number of years that's spelled out? And I'm not sure. I've never created documents that lasted into perpetuity. So I'm just trying to understand that one.
Good, great question.
I would defer that to Attorney Chavez for the definition of perpetuity.
So in perpetuity is exactly what it sounds like, in perpetuity. So the only way it creates an issue for us is if it's not documented somewhere and then we ultimately violate it. So as long as we are willing to accept the in perpetuity and we have that documented so we don't ultimately violate that standard, then there is no issue with it.
What are we actually giving up by having those naming rights? I don't really see us really giving up anything. Are we? I guess I'm not sure it's an issue. We're not really giving up anything by having that, are we?
I don't believe staff has any concerns with any of the naming. Okay. I mean, certainly we're in any case, we want to work with JBS in terms of, you know, if it's naming the park facility or the gardens or any of the other amenities in the area, certainly that'll be a collaboration with JBS on the naming. I think regardless of whether or not that was in the agreement. So I don't believe staff has any concerns with the language at this point.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil.
With that in mind, I will entertain a motion. Yes,
Chair?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Just a quick question, real quickly. Obviously, very appreciative. It's a very generous offer from JBS, and I too am excited about the opportunity that it presents for development on that side of town. However, one of the things I just want to be sure of, just, you know, simply because a property is a donation shouldn't necessarily absolve us of due diligence. And so I'm just curious from a staff perspective, you know, that site is full of a lot of power lines and other equipment. Are there sort of power line easements, or do you think it's necessary for us to consider phase 1, phase 2, boring samples? I mean, ultimately getting at the determination of kind of like what an ALTA survey might determine, which is what on that site is actually buildable. Because what I just want to make sure of is that we don't inadvertently find ourselves in a situation where we have a lot that maybe we can't build as much as we thought because of different on. And then of course we have a big lot that we're maintaining for 40 years, like the shipyard site. So if staff could maybe just kind of comment on that.
Yeah, I think go ahead, Cheryl.
I was going to say, we actually did have our Public Works department take a look at this hunk of land out here for the same reasons. There will be a couple of challenges with regards to some lift stations may be needed with regards to water and sewer. There are some, I think, wetlands towards the back of the site, but that site we didn't plan to develop looking at it. So I think we've looked at the site, and there is absolutely enough land for us to develop without having to worry about those types of issues we're looking at. We did not do, I don't think, we didn't do like any Alta survey or borings at this point. We just had our Public Works Department review the parcel of land.
Were there any easements that came up in that review? Because power line easements obviously can be a real stickler in any kind of development.
I can't remember if they were easements, but I remember that the portion of the land that would have any issues with access was not part of the developable space we looked at. So we did not have concerns with regards to easements not being able to allow us to develop the majority of the site. We will have to work at, we're going to have to look at when we develop this site access. So whether that's going to be if we're going to do something out to Imperial Lane, for example, or if we're going to circle back maybe and work with the school district for, an easement to get back out onto Guns, like in a U shape, something to that effect. But I think these are things we're looking at down the line.
Okay. And then from in understanding that it is farmland imposes probably a low degree of risk. Do you have concerns about environmental contamination on that site? Any history that might demonstrate
I don't believe that's come up. I don't know, Matt, if you have any comments on that. I can't remember things when we reviewed this, that coming up as an issue for us.
We didn't do a phase 1 environmental site assessments. Just looking at the property, there wasn't any red flags or yellow flags that really popped up, just knowing the history of the site.
Okay. In which case, eventually that's going to have to be done, I presume, right? When we develop the site. And in the interest of really mitigating, potential risk for the city. And I don't want this to undermine the gratitude, that I certainly have for it, but I wonder if that might make sense to have a contingency, upon the successful completion of a phase 1. I'll leave that for the RDA to discuss, but I just at least wanted to float that out there. Just again, it might be a small chance of risk, but one I think that we have the opportunity to at least mitigate. But that's all I had for questions. Thank you. And again, much gratitude to JBS for this opportunity for our community.
Thank you, Alderman Johnson.
Mr. Chair, I will make the motion. I move to approve this agreement with JBS.
Motion made by Alder Dorf. Is there a second?
Everybody's muted, so they're seconding it, but they're mute.
Oh, okay, you have to unmute. Whoever's going to second.
I think Kathy seconded.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion.
I got it.
There we go. Thank you. Motion by Alder Dorf and a second by Kathy. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, sing by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Absolutely. This is a great opportunity for the city. We appreciate JBS very much. And thanks for coordinating, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate your comments, and it's very exciting.
Absolutely. Thanks to the RDA.
All right. Agenda item number 2. And you're going to have to excuse me for a second here while I get it back up. All right. Consideration of possible action on a development agreement with Lemuse Construction for a single-family new home construction project at 1255 Cherry Street using the New Homes in Your Neighborhood program. Who's got that?
I do. We received a proposal from Lemuse Construction, who has done 3 other projects on the RDA sites. They are looking to do an owner-occupied 2-story family home with the estimated value of $208,000. They are looking to purchase the land for $1,500, but they're also asking for the $25,000 New Homes in Your Neighborhood grant. We didn't see any problems with the plans that they provided. They also do have a potential buyer ready to go. Staff recommends that we that the RDA approve a 1-year development agreement with Lemuse Construction for this project.
Okay, and we've had good luck with Lemuse before, right? And this
yes.
And this is in line with the previous agreements that we made with your new neighborhood programs. Is that correct?
Yep. Correct.
Okay, questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Sounds like a good opportunity.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
What else is mute?
And Matt, second by Matt. Motion by Alder, second by Matt. Any questions or comments? If not, all those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Sounds like a very neat opportunity again. Number 3, consideration of possible action to approve a 90-day extension of planning option with Neighborhood Works Green Bay on Broadway for potential mixed-use development at 158 North Maple Avenue. And I read where the staff is actually recommending that we not approve this. Is that correct?
We are. Back in January, we gave them a 90-day planning option. And at this time, they've decided, we did receive a new proposal that they're asking for a 90-day extension to explore a new idea for taking a phased approach at completing this project, possibly with working on the first level and the exterior of the building. So they're looking for the extra time to develop the cost and estimates and prepare the new plan to present to the RDA approximately in June at the June meeting. So although our staff is still very interested in their concept, but the end result could still end up in demolition of that lot, we are proposing that we are able to put out another request for an RFP to go with possibly a single family, multi-unit, 2 to 3 units, or a multi-use, just to see what kind of feedback we could get. NeighborWorks at that time could present the same thing if they have more, I guess, concrete plans moving forward as to that we know there's actual steps in order.
Right.
We'd like to do this on a quick. We'd like to do this on a timeline to get it back to the RDA possibly by June. So we don't want to sit on it any longer, but I think we just have this fear that we may end up demolishing this house just because the cost is going to be so great for it to be remodeled, that we wanted to check all the boxes to make sure that we didn't eliminate the ability for someone to bid on that for a 2 or 3 family.
Right.
We're not super hopeful we're going to get that proposal in because of the cost of the remodel, but at least that would allow us to make sure we gave that opportunity to developers if they were out there for that.
Yes.
And
Alder, please.
Refresh me, did we run an RFP on this site before?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
That's what my comment was going to be. I remember that. And I remember we were excited about the, I think it was Artist in Residence program. And why wouldn't we give them 90 days? It seems like we only gave them 3 months. That's not very long. I'm wondering if we could hear from them.
Yep. And I just want to be clear, like staff is not going to, our denial is more of a check the box kind of denial to ship this RFP out. We are not going to, if the RDA says, let's go forward with this extension, we're okay with that too. I think when we weighed the pros and cons out, we just felt like a quick RFP might at least allow us, if we had to end up taking the building down, we'd have that opportunity. So that being said, yes, I believe that NeighborWorks and On Broadway representatives are here as well if they'd like to speak.
We want to entertain a motion to
open the floor.
The meeting?
Okay, I'll move to open the floor.
Second by all those in favor, saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting is open to the public. Is there comments out there?
Yeah, I'll go first if that's okay, Noel, and then if you want to add to it. So when we originally put this request before the Redevelopment Authority, we had asked for 6. At that time, staff had recommended 90 days, and that's what was awarded. And we kind of anticipated that we were likely going to need to come back and request an extension. I have to recognize that we're not just trying to do a quote on a real estate renovation. We're literally building a program here from the ground up on how to manage and execute an art residency. And so that's, that takes time. We have on Broadway, I would say 50 plus hours of time invested into this so far. I can tell you that if the planning option is not extended, I'm not sure that we would continue to invest time in a property that we know doesn't have a guaranteed outcome. And that would be a little bit unfortunate. If you look at the reason why we're even at the table today, we recognize that this project is a heavy lift. We saw the cost to convert it to a single family. That cost came back in at over $500,000. I'm very skeptical that you will find another developer, though I would certainly support that. But if you had another developer who could do that into a single family, that would be wonderful. But it goes back to why are we here with NeighborWorks in the first place? Our two organizations, this is embedded in our mission. This is what we do. We have this objective to preserve historic properties, at least on Broadway does, to preserve historic properties in our district. And we're trying to find a use for that property so that we can salvage it. And so we have, I think, a little bit greater commitment to trying to find a way to salvage the property. Now, we did put this in front of our board of directors when we initially requested the planning option, and they fully supported it. I went before my board of directors before requesting an extension on the planning option, and they once again fully supported that. So the board of directors of On Broadway is still entirely committed to this project, but we feel that we do need another 90 days to really flesh out the concept, the program, and how that functions. And then, of course, the financing component of it, which we do have quite a few good leads and partners on, but it's just formulating that into a business plan. And the last thing that I would just point out, and that is on the planning option, it was noted to explore an alternative use, where we would do the exterior followed by the first floor. To me, that doesn't mean that's the only thing we're pursuing. To me, it's here's another option that we've looked at as we continue to push this project forward. That could be option one, and option two is still, the full-fledged art residency that we originally envisioned. So we would respectfully request the RDA to approve a 90-day extension, which I think is in alignment with what a lot of other planning options are, meaning 180 days. And I think that by the end of that 180 days, we can have a strong determination if this is going to be a viable project or not, and recognizing that raising the property could very well be what's on the other end of this. I hope that we don't kind of, snuff the candle out before it has really a chance to burn and determine if the idea can take legs.
Thank you. Noel, are you out there?
Yeah. Just, echoing Brian's comments in that, we're part of this team because we like to preserve these structures and do useful things, in downtown and near downtown. We're the builder and partner with On Broadway in this. It's like Brian's trying to figure out this program, and if they can, then we're ready to help them realize it in terms of the construction at the site. But I would note, just in terms of process, right? We did ask for a 6-month plan because this isn't just a rehab. This was a bigger fish to fry that Brian alluded to, and the only other proposal I recall that you got was somebody who was willing to do it if you gave them a $407,000 grant. So I don't know if you're going to go out to go out again, if you're going to cast your line again, if you're going to get anything better than that. And also, that's going to just put us on pause until June, until we hear from you if we get selected again, rather than continuing to work on the project. So I don't know that a timetable. It sounds like it slows it down considerably. So just with respect, to staff, I understand you guys think about a lot of variables when you make your decisions, but I think this one's a mistake, and would ask that you grant us the request. Not that there's any guarantee we're going to be able to pull the rabbit out of our hats. And I'm sorry if I'm hedging against Brian's work on this, but it is a big lift, and we've got to do a lot of work to make this happen.
Okay. Alder.
I was going to just say motion to close the floor so we can move on with the motion.
Any other comments from the public?
Mr. Chair, we did have Kenneth Vervinsky has his hand raised on Zoom here. Mr. Vervinsky, do you still have a question?
I guess not. Okay. There's no other comments from the public?
I'm sorry. Sorry, my phone was on mute. I'm on a job site right now.
Okay. Oh, there he is. Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment. So thank you for letting me speak. I would just be in extension on this. Just looking at, put numbers together on it. It is going to be hard to find any other developer that is going to be able to put, that much money into this project. And even just on my knowledge from, when I had originally put the RFP out when I worked for the city, the biggest hurdle was the funding. So I think, giving NeighborWorks that 3-month extension just makes sense. Let them keep their momentum going. So
Okay.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Any other comments from the public? If not, I entertain a motion to go back to regular order of business.
Motion to go back to regular order of business.
Oldendorf,
Second.
second by Melody. All those in favor, can you saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are back to regular order of business.
I would like to make a motion to approve the extension for 3 more months.
Second that.
And second by Melody. Any other questions or comments? If not, all those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The extension is granted.
Thank
All
you.
right. You have to excuse me again. I got to get back to my other phone. Here we go. We got her. Okay. Number 4, consideration of possible action on a commercial facade building materials grant request from Neighborhood Works for enhancements to 722 Bodart Street, tax parcel 10-6. All right, who's got that?
Cannon? Yep.
Yep, thank you.
One moment while I try to share my screen here. All right, hopefully you're looking at a PowerPoint.
Yes.
Great.
Yep.
All right, so we have 2 facade grant applications for your consideration today. The first one is 722 Bodart Street. This is a building owned by NeighborWorks. It's at the corner of Bodart and Jackson. Here's a picture of it. You might know it more as the Attic building.
Yes.
Our Asian Taste Market. The NeighborWorks, they have those 2 commercial tenants, the Attic and Asian Taste, as well as 14 residential units inside this building. And they're proposing a project that would replace 82 windows. They would improve the masonry, they'd restore the masonry, add new perimeter trim, and flashing and color bands. So here's just some images from their application. So replacing all of the upper windows, basically, on this side of the street. Some lower windows as well. So this is just a little snippet from their budget here. This entire project is budgeted around $26,646. Our design review team has reviewed and we scored the application, and we are recommending award for that total request of $26,646. In the report, I did make mention that we're still in the process of our federally required environmental review, and that we would recommend an award contingent on the completion of that review. Quick update, that review is complete. So now our recommendation has changed to just standard approval. That's it. A pretty quick one here. Simple project. It's a great old building. Staff supports a project like this to extend the life of the building.
Questions, comments?
I have a question. Matt, I know you had the info in the packet, but could you just elaborate on the balance in that fund and what we're looking at if we award this? And then I think there's another one as well on the agenda today.
Yes, so if we did approve this grant, We would have a little bit more than $11,000 left for our current year of funds. If we approved both, we would have just under 5,000 left for this year. So we're sitting okay. We're getting close to running out of funds.
Yeah.
But if we do, we could always come back and request for a reallocation from another program.
And the whole point of the funds are to use them, right? So, I mean, I look at this and it seems to be exactly what we're looking for, right? You know, neat old building, prominent building, you take the opportunity to, you know, update where needed. Windows are important, stone's important, flashing's important, all of those things, right, are the building envelope. So taking care of those helps keep the life of the building long-term. I make a motion to approve.
Excellent. Thank you, Melanie. A motion by Melanie.
I'll second.
A second by Debbie. Any other questions or comments? If not, all those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. Number 5, consideration of possible action on commercial facade building materials grant request from Arnold Pendergast, I believe, for enhancements to 1351 Cedar Street, tax parcel 8-332.
Me again.
That's Matt again?
Yes. All right. So this is our second application, 1351 Cedar Street, also in the Old Main District, near just not too far from the Main and Bayard intersections, just a block off. So Napoli's is the business that's operated out of this building for many, many years. They are requesting funds to help support the installation of a new mural, exterior lighting, front door, and new stained glass windows. The final, here's some existing photographs of what the building currently looks like today. Here's some images. This is where the proposed mural is going to be located. So it's going to be on the eastern facade, but pretty up close to the street. Also up on this upper chimney. So it's well within view from the public right-of-way. Here's just some images of the proposed lighting to light up the mural. They don't have a final design of the mural yet. It's something that they're working on. They're partnering with United Arts Group. They're partnering with Art Garage, the Canary Fund, and Old Main on developing a final design. These are some concepts that they provided with their application, just to give the community an idea of kind of the direction they're going with. The hope is that the message of the mural would convey something that affirms the history, the presence, and contributions of LGBTQ people in Northeast Wisconsin. In addition to the mural, they'll be replacing that window, these windows right here, with some new stained glass. This is an image of the front door on Cedar Street. It's an interesting story. Years ago, they sealed up this door and they used the back door for their primary access into the building. And they sealed that up because it had been vandalized many times. They recognize that it's a new world today. They're showing their pride with this new mural. They want to welcome the community in with a brand new front door. So that's part of their facade grant application as well. Their budget, in total, we're looking at a grant application request of $6,130. The design review committee obviously scored this one as well. Our staff supports the project, and we are also recommending a full grant award of that $6,130.
Matt, when the mural design is finalized, who from the city approves it? The mural itself.
That actually. So this is new for our program. Our facade grant program has never funded a mural before. It's always been eligible, but we've never actually funded a mural with these sets of funds. So what we're recommending is that the RDA approve the grant contingent upon the final design, having that be approved by the Public Arts Commission. So once they get that design finished, the Public Arts Commission would take a look at that and grant final approval of the mural.
Do we have representatives from the city on that committee?
Laura Schley is our Public Arts Coordinator, and she oversees that group. It's a commission just like the RDA, so those are members are appointed by the mayor.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Questions or comments?
I believe we do have the applicants with us today, if you have any questions for them.
I don't believe we need to open up the meeting, but if people feel otherwise, so be it. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the $6,000+ to improve the building facade.
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion by Kathy.
I'm sorry, I have my voice. The voice is on the phone because I don't know why my computer's not connecting. So.
All right. Thanks, Kathy.
I didn't second it.
And a second by Debbie. Questions or comments? If not, all those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. All right. Number 6, consideration possible action on extension of the 12-month loan deferral agreement for the Quality Inn and Suites downtown for an additional 6 months. Who's got that?
Wendy Townsend, if you could take that, please.
Yep, I have that I brought before the RDA back in August, a request from Mr. Vandenwey Mellenberg from Quality Inn and Suites, a 1-year deferral on his RDA loan for his interest anyway, on his loan that is with the RDA. And now he is asking for a 6 months extension. The hospitality industry has been hit hard with the COVID situation. And I do have Mr. Vandenwey Mellenberg with me on my phone. He wasn't able to call in, so I have him on my phone too with questions. The request is that we allow him to defer his principal payments through the end of August. His hotel revenues were down about 50% when he did do his financials this year. For his P&Ls show that. His actual revenue was down $600,000 are the numbers that he's reporting to us. He has financial information that he can provide to the RDA if we need that. I guess that was most of the information that we have to provide to the RDA.
Did we want to open up the meeting? It's up to the group.
I don't have any questions. I mean, I don't think it's a surprise to any of us that the hospitality industry has struggled over the last year plus. I think, Wendy, you had some additional potential stipulations with that extension. Do you want to mention those?
Yeah, as staff, we have talked a little bit about some things with the additional second extension, that the staff would like to recommend that the RDA consider adding a requirement to the loan agreement that, for one, that any proposed sale of the property, while there's a balance due on this loan, that we must, or that it be brought to the RDA for approval, just so that we are involved with us involving some extensions. We'd like to a little bit of involvement in that. And then also that the city retains a right of first refusal on the property once the loan is paid back. we'd like to ask for those opportunities with this extension.
Very good. Those sound like some very good additions. Thank you. Questions or comments?
Walderdorf has a question, Mr. Chair.
Walderdorf?
Mr. Chair, I think those are very good requirements, and are those agreeable to the owner?
I have not spoken with him about that, but I do have him on the phone if we want to open the floor to talk about those items.
Okay. Let's do that.
Okay. I would move to open the floor then.
Walderdorf?
I'll second.
Second by Melody. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 The floor is open to the public. Thank you.
Mr. Van Wen.
Yeah, please, Wendy.
Paul, you may speak now.
Okay, hi everybody.
Hi.
Regarding whether I will accept the condition about that right off without, I'm not seeing any reason why I would not. For history purposes, I am 74 years old. I had my hotel on the market. I put it on the market in January of 2020, and I actually almost had it sold, and then March 13th happened, and my industry went backwards fast. So I'm sitting on a hotel that I will have to operate for. I will review your proposal. Right off the top, I don't see any reason why I would not agree to this. And financially, the debt is such that I don't see any way that you guys are not going to get all the money that you're owed.
Very good. Any other comments on the public? Good.
So
Okay,
let me just give you a little more information here, as long as we have an open floor. 2020 was a brutal year. I never saw anything like it before. I've obviously had to reduce costs everywhere and forego a lot of capital expenditures. My staff has been a great staff. They work together on this, but all my management has been part-time, and we've had to cut everywhere. Despite that, my revenue was actually down 42% year end, and the city was actually down 51%. We have a statistical company called Smith Travel. We kind of, all the major brands support that. So we see generic numbers which talk about occupancy and revenues. So I know that I've done better than the city. I am anticipating a good second half in 2021. The first half is actually, we're starting to see some improvements, especially in leisure. The business travel is simply not happening, and I don't know that it will until possibly the third quarter.
Okay. Any other comments from the public? If not, I entertain a motion to get back to regular order of business.
So moved.
Second.
Melody. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 We're back to regular order of business. And I will entertain a motion. Matt.
Yeah, Gary, I would make the motion, to grant the additional 6 months of deferred payments on the loan with of the two proposals, and understanding the property owner would need to agree that as well. But one, the proposed sale of the property while there was a balance on the loan must be approved by the RDA, and that the city retains a right of first refusal once the loan is paid back.
Very good motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Walderdorf. Any other questions or comments? If not, all those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carried. Thank you. All right. Number 7, consideration of possible action on the tax incremental district affordable housing TIDAH fund policy. Who's got that?
I think we're going to refer to that chairman as TADA, the TADA plan. So
Okay.
got it right. This is a
yeah.
old Kevin Vaughn carryover. So it's an acronym. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is, of course, this policy is based off of the fact that council approved the holding open of some TIDs to create a pool of money for affordable housing in Green Bay. And the TIDs that were held open in 21 were 7 and 8. And right now we have a balance of $1,161,000 and change in this pool right now. So we could start spending money this year using this funding source. So what we did was, based off of the results of our housing study, which of course took a long time to put together and had a lot of input, we put together this policy on how we'd like to see this affordable housing money be spent. It's, and this was in your packet, it's a pretty comprehensive list, I think, with our main priority is really in the creation of additional housing units. So we really need to fill we need to build the numbers up for housing units. So we want to give priorities to properties that are owned by the RDA or the city, specifically the ones that have been sitting for a while, right? We'd like to be able to redevelop those properties.
Yes.
We'd like to look at projects in the block grant eligible areas, but we're not limited to that. So if there are some projects outside of that block grant area, we can do that. We also want to look at places that are accessible for pedestrians and bicyclists, public transit, places of employment. So it kind of makes sense to put the housing where people need it. And then also we want to be able to look at neighborhoods as priorities. So for example, we've been focusing our efforts in our department on the shipyard of lately, but there are other neighborhoods that we need to be looking at as well. We want to allocate these TID dollars to larger multi-unit rental or owner-occupied development projects. We'd also like to see the conversion of underutilized space. So, for example, there's a lot of spaces above businesses that are vacant right now that it'd be nice to be able to utilize this money to help with the redevelopment of those. And I think there may be some office space, for example, depending on how we come out of this pandemic. If there's a lot of vacant office space, that there's a potential that we could utilize that for housing as well. We'd also like to be able to do some RDA-led construction. In the past, we've been able to do some single-family builds in the neighborhood, so we'd like to include that for single-family or multifamily. And then we also put in there home improvement loans for income qualified applicants. So right now, home improvement loans are funded primarily through our home dollars, and we allocate those monies annually. NeighborWorks is our contract provider to do the service. Right now, I think we package 10 to 15 a year maybe, but we have a waiting list. I think it's in excess of 90 people on that waiting list. So we know that there's a need for rehab in some capacity. We'd like to give priorities to some projects that, of course, are creating higher value in the property, generating taxes. We want to make sure that we rehabilitate or build new structures that are accessible to everyone, but especially to our elderly citizens or elderly neighbors, because we know that Green Bay is aging from our housing study, including me. So we know people are going to start needing different opportunities for rentals potentially. And then also we know that there's a need for universal design or accessible units. So we need to start building more of those as well in Green Bay. We want to look at transitional housing with supportive on-site services. We have folks in shelter that are coming into that first apartment that we need more of those single units, studios, smaller units with that supportive care to help those folks meet the challenges of this new living situation. We're also looking at just being able to acquire those occasional blighted ones that are sticking out that we need to pick up that we've used enhancement funds for in the past. We're looking at, again, I mentioned converting those underutilized spaces. We want to work with developers who are successful in working with WIDA and other HUD programs in the past. We want to make sure that the developers have equity in the property. So we're looking for at least 20% equity from developers who are working within this program. We want to make sure that they have financing that will allow them to complete the project. And we've also included in this for projects over $500,000, the 1% dedication towards public art. I think we've got a couple of limitations. We're not going to give more than the amount of the developer equity in the project, or 20%, with our top grant being $500,000. Those are for the very large redevelopment projects. So we received some really good news, and I don't know, Mayor, if you're going to mention this maybe at the end, with some American Rescue Plan dollars that will be coming to the city, specifically and to be used for housing. I guess we weren't aware of that when we started drafting this, but yay, right? How often do we have a problem with having all this money coming in?
Right.
So we may move between these two plans, and depending on how the rules come out with how we can use the home dollars. So for example, we have rehab loans in the TDA plan, but maybe we decide that we just allocate more with the recovery money or the rescue plan money. So I think this is a kind of a fluid document. The plan of action is to have this document come to the RDA annually around budget time for review by the RDA with a recommendation to City Council. So City Council weighs in on that as well. And then the RDA would administer these dollars, much like we do with block grant and neighborhood enhancement funds.
Right.
So this is the time, I guess, for commentary from anyone if they think we've forgotten something in here, or if we should do more of a focus, we'd be looking for commentary.
Personally, I think it's quite thorough, to tell you the truth. I think you did a great job, Cheryl. But other comments, please. Or questions?
Alder Johnson has his hand up, and
excellent. Alder Johnson, please.
Halverson as well.
Thank you, Cheryl. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this was in response to the communication that I submitted. And one of the provisions that I put in there is for the plan to go before City Council. And I will admit, I am forever confused by where RDA has final jurisdiction versus what goes to council. So I just want to verify. Now, while the annual plan will go before council, will this actual plan go before council?
Yes.
Okay.
So the goal is to get the RDA, get some comments, and then council, take a stab at this as well to see if we've omitted some things and we can make changes as well. And then annually going forward, this might change. Neighborhoods that we designate may change, needs may change. So then annually the council would have that final review and approval, much like block grant.
So would this kind of, in essence, sort of create the guiding principles over a fund per se, where if we do these TID closures in the future, they automatically go into that fund and these guidelines continue to remain in play, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
And I like that idea. And by the way, it just really great job by you and staff on putting this together. I honestly, and admittedly, I only did a cursory review of this, but I honestly only have one question, and that's related to percent for the art, because that's a soft spot for me. But I think this might need some clarifying language a little bit, because in the original percent for the art program, we indicated that it's based on the assessed value of the project. And I don't know that that is whether that 1% applies to the award amount or if it is still the assessed value of the project. So,
and I think, Nia, if I may, Director Steck-Schulte, I think you just did some work with our public arts coordinator, maybe in defining that a little better.
Yeah,
that we can tie that into this.
Exactly. I think Alder Johnson, what we're looking at there is kind of maintaining a pretty high standard on that, but then trying to provide some flexibility off of that for certain situations where it makes sense to, and certainly we can use an example for affordable housing. If it makes sense to adjust a figure a little bit lower on that. We're trying to certainly raise, I think the City of Green Bay's done an excellent job of encouraging public art in a lot of areas, and we kind of want to maintain that. In fact, that's one of the other issues we're looking at too, is maintenance of existing artwork that we have as well, that we need to make sure is one of the reasons behind some of those songs. It is certainly a higher figure, but we are looking at trying to provide some flexibility in terms of the TIF guidelines in exchange for other criteria or other basically city goals and objectives that are met in a TIF program, that there would be some flexibility to reduce it down from the overall value of the project. Certainly a percentage based on the amount of the award is a very likely candidate for something to be, in a case, to be reduced and to be basically evaluated at a lower dollar figure.
Yeah. So maybe just two comments on that front. And I think one, we always intended, for that program to come back to RDA and assess its success, I guess. But I'm really not even aware of any projects that have qualified yet for that. Maybe there have been, but I mean, I know that it's been in development agreements, but I don't know that there's been any projects that have been complete yet that have actually required that investment. And I could be wrong, but that might be a worthwhile discussion at a later date. The other thing is, just to keep in mind, especially around low-income projects, public art time and time again has been cited for, being a catalyst in the redevelopment of lower-income neighborhoods. So my only thought process on that is when you relieve that restriction or that requirement on some of these projects, it almost has like a counter effect. So if there's any way that there are other ways, I guess, that we can find as a city to contribute, if it's an inhibitor to getting a deal done, we absolutely have to have that conversation. But is there another way that perhaps the city through block grant or some other sources can kind of backfill that? Because the idea is to revitalize struggling neighborhoods, and public art, like I said, is proven to do that time and time again. So again, great job, staff. I like what you've done here.
Yeah, Alder Johnson, just a quick comment on that. Staff agrees to you 100%, and that, in fact, I think the comment was made at the staff level that, if out of any areas that generally would require some investment for public art, odds are it's going to be a public, a subsidized housing project that's already going to be kind of a little bit tighter on the budget anyway, and maybe a little, sometimes a little tougher discussion to try to get them with some better architecture, better landscaping, and more of an aesthetic on the project anyway. So public art, we see that as certainly a great way to kind of help mitigate that a little bit. So staff is very much in agreement with that.
Any other questions or comments? Please.
Noel's got his hand up, Mr. Chair.
Noel, please. Noel, where are you?
He's getting there. He is.
Thank you. Yeah, and thanks for inviting some comments on this, Cheryl. I've just got a couple. Under the section on purpose, it's not explicit, although I imagine somebody could argue that it would be permitted. But in talking about how the fund could be allocated, I would suggest maybe making explicit that it could also include the acquisition of property for future development, of affordable housing, and even perhaps the improvements to the land. Say if it were, something that needed infrastructure brought to it as well, that you could use that for that. Another thought is that the fund could be used perhaps in the restructuring of an existing, debt stack or capital stack for an existing property to preserve affordability. One of the things that happens sometimes as properties are created with subsidies to make them affordable, the 20 years or 30 years goes by, and then they convert to market and no longer are accessible to people of modest means. One of the things that could be done is a debt restructure, maybe that involves some of these funds to preserve affordability. Under the projects section for priorities, there's a great list of priorities there. I would suggest adding one that says, projects that increase residential density in downtown and near downtown neighborhoods. That may be part of the win markers there, is just that it's bringing more units or more dense units. And my last comment really is about the design. So reading through this, it looks like it's structured as a simple subsidy in terms of a grant to a development project or something, and that there are other ways to make that work, because if you are doing it that way, and wouldn't argue against having a component of the fund that works as a grant, but if you're going to be putting potentially millions of dollars in this, say over a decade, if you grant it all out, it's one and done with each dollar. There may be opportunities to talk to some financial institution partners and get them to put up, the best lowest price capital they can put up in terms of debt, and then you can blend, the TDA pot with the with some market rate capital and end up with still a lower cost capital pot. to help a developer along, or maybe because of what you're able to do is you're maybe able to stretch amortization or something like that, because sometimes it's not just the amount, it's the payback. And if somebody's looking at a 20-year payback on something, but they're constrained on the rents they're going to be charging the tenants, that might not make the numbers work real well. Whereas if you could say, hey, well, we can make a 30-year amortization for that affordable housing development or something, that might bring somebody in who might not otherwise come in. So just, I would say, and I'm not necessarily a revision to your plan, but I would encourage you strongly to explore possibilities of layering what you've got here as a really powerful tool and use it as a catalyst with some private capital.
Good comments.
Yep.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Other comments?
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the committee? If not, you probably really aren't looking for a motion here, Cheryl. You just wanted us to comment on the document. Is that correct?
No, actually would like you to pass it if you could, so I can get it on to council.
Okay, great.
Have them take a look at it.
Great. So I'll entertain a motion, please.
Gary, I'll make the motion to approve the TDA fund policy.
All right. Very good, Matt. Thank you. Ta-da. Absolutely.
I'll second that.
And second by Melody.
We need TDA hands, Melanie. There we go.
Any other questions or comments? Noel, please. Oh, Noel, you had your hand
Will
up?
any of those comments I just made be part of that, or
Right.
how is that working? Or
too.
is that a day late and a dollar short? Because I really wanted to be a part of having us, a voice in this process here.
Right.
I think I can make those additions to that. Really, I don't think there's anything controversial other than, giving the ability to, like you talked about, some debt restructuring or, pool basically using it with other funding sources if possible. I mean, I guess we can put it in, and if council wants to take it out, they can do that. But I don't have a problem adding those comments to this.
Matt, adding Noel's comments to the document?
I do, Gary. I comments is adding flexibility to the policy, not constraining it. So yes, I'm supportive of those amendments.
Melody?
I absolutely agree.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please signal by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried. Thank you. I have to get my computer up here. All right. Number 8, consideration of possible action to approve and recommend to the council, the City of Green Bay 2021 Annual Action Plan for Community Development Block Grant Program, CDBG, and Home Investment Partnerships Program, Home Entitlement Programs.
Mrs. Narrows?
Yes, Neil, please. Number 8.
This is me. Okay, so we received our allocation from HUD with the dollar amount that we're receiving for 2021 block grant funds and home funds. They're a little less this year than we received the last year, but it's still a pretty significant amount of money. We went through the input process with the community. We met with departments. We talked through with staff and the mayor, and we came up with these activities, proposed projects, and their funding with the dollar amounts that we were awarded by HUD. We have about 4 public service programs that we're thinking of. Fair housing, this is a HUD mandate us. So we put some money in there for fair housing. We will RFP that out. Community gardens, we support the community gardens in Green Bay, and we allocate money to that public service activity. Our arts coordinator supports the art beautification CDBG money within our CDBG eligible areas. And then we have a line this year for crime prevention. And this is something that when we talked to the mayor, he wanted to put some money in for some public service activity to do some crime prevention in the city of Green Bay. And then our regular allocations for emergency housing repair. This is our HILP program. Our block grant funds are used for emergency repair. It's a little bit more flexible than our home dollars, where you don't have to bring the whole house up to code. So if somebody comes in and they have an emergency, their roof is leaking, but they don't have the equity in the house to bring it all the way up to code, we are more flexible with these dollars. We'd like to put some money into infrastructure and park improvement funds within the CDBG eligible areas. We would like to put some money into beautification and art projects within the CDBG eligible areas. Our facade demo grant program that Matt had brought 2 applications in, we would like to with $75,000, and we'd like to do some economic development revolving loan funds. So we would like to give some for-profits some loans to create jobs within the city of Green Bay. And then our CDBG administration dollars are our staff salaries. And that's 20% of our allocation.
Allocation.
Comments, please, from the group.
Quick comment. Krista, can you just explain again the 2 different columns and the total, what's happening there?
Okay, so yes, the staff recommendations, this is our actual allocation from HUD, the $969,580. Program income is the loans that we do through our HILP program. Those are loans that are out in the community, and they can be out in the community for like 30 years, or it could be somebody paying off, refinancing, doing something like that and repaying those back. So that's program income. So part of our program income is that, and then the other part is our economic development revolving loans that we administer. That money comes back in as they make their monthly payments on their loans, and that has to go back into the economic development revolving loan fund. So I'm anticipating, and I'm doing it on very cautious this year because of the struggles with COVID and some of the business not being able to make their payments. So last year, this program income I anticipated as being a lot higher than what I am this year. So I'm being very conservative in case we don't receive that money in. So that's the combination of the 2 will make up the total amount that's allocated for those projects.
What's the present balance of the revolving loan fund? You know, Wendy or Matt? Or
yeah, it's around 400,000 currently.
Okay.
Yeah, I can give you the exact number if you want. It's $362,538.31. Yep.
Thanks, Wendy. Any other questions or comments in regard to the proposal?
Although I think, Wendy, you've got a loan in the hopper, though. That's just a little deceiving, though. I think you've got a big loan that's kind of in the hopper right now for that revolving loan fund, right?
Actually, we have 2.
You have 2?
So, yep.
When's the next time the revolving loan committee's meeting, by the way?
It looks like I'm just going to get some final questions asked of Krista a little bit after this meeting, but I'm hoping to meet as soon as possible so we can take a look at that.
And Matt and Debbie are representatives, right? Correct? Cheryl, we just made a change with Debbie. Is that correct? Yeah, anyway, I digress. I apologize. Any other questions or comments in regard to the proposal?
I move for approval.
Alderdorf?
I'll second.
Second by Kathy.
Wait, Krista, is that home and CDBG?
No, together? I haven't gone through the home yet. Do
you want to do them separately? Do you want to do them separately or together?
We can do them together.
Okay.
Because we can go through the home. I just wanted to pause at the block grant portion in case anyone had questions with that, or if you wanted to change any of the dollar amounts with that. So.
Since we have a motion and a second, let's approve them separately. All those in favor of the motion and a second, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, onward.
Okay. So then our 2021 home allocation is $537,000. Again, we are looking at projects that we have funded in the past, our single family rehab loan program, our HILP program. As Cheryl had mentioned previously, we can do about 10 to 15 loans a year. But we do have an extended waiting list. And that's not because we can't get the money out the door. There's a lot of restrictions with that, with contractors, how busy they are currently and our admin capacity to create those loans. We would like to but refund the housing development advance in order to create affordable housing within the city of Green Bay. That's one of our key money into that. With home regulations, we need to set aside 15% of our allocation to CHODO, Community Housing Development Organizations, to create affordable housing within the city of Green Bay. So we have set that 15% aside for that. And then we have our home administration dollars, which is 10% of our allocation. And this is used to administer that HILP program and to support staff that works on both home and CDBG projects.
Okay, questions or comments in regard to the home allocations? Entertain a motion.
Chair, just real quick.
Yes, please.
I just wanted to thank staff for their work on the home allocations and the CDBG work. Krista's been doing this for some time, so really appreciate all her work. And Will has waded into the fray recently to kind of coordinate our departments and identify priorities. So really appreciate everything that he's been doing to support this work too. And then one thing that Cheryl had mentioned previously, we did get some really good news. I think it was just last week. HUD sent out a press release. Jeff Bollier at the Press Gazette actually saw it before we did. So he gave us the good news that we're going to be receiving $1.9 million in supplemental home funds. So you look at that annual allocation, this amount is nearly 4 times what we get in a normal year, which is just fantastic. So, excited about what we're going to be able to do with those funds. So I guess I owe Jeff a Christmas card or something for that good news.
I've got a capital projects list we could talk about.
Get in line, Noel.
Yeah, right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So thanks again to staff.
Excellent. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Melody made a motion.
And I'll second.
Second by Kathy. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right. Informational. Update on the housing study. Cheryl, you've given us some information already, but anything else you want to add to that?
No, I think the TDOT plan moving forward is good. And then, that's where we're at.
Excellent. Thank you, Cheryl.
Yep.
Financial report and check register. I went over it. Extra comments? Anybody else? They do, And director's report, project updates. Neil.
Just a couple of quick items here. I know been a long meeting today. Thank you everybody for your time on that. We like meetings like that. It's good use of everybody's time. We like get all those things approved like that in one shot. So thank you for everybody's cooperation today. A couple of just quick updates. City has pretty much completed our TID amendment process for TID 7, 8, 9, and 23. Folks remember RDA was a key part of that, providing the resolutions approving that. Joint Review Board has approved the 2 allocation amendments, and we are finishing up our reporting requirements to the Department of Revenue to complete that process. Staff continues to work on the guarantee agreement regarding the City Center HCW project. Remember that came forward, and you gave us direction to continue negotiating that. We hope to be bringing that back in May is our objective at this point. wanted to point out the fact that the staff and our Economic Development Authority had a commercial market study that was completed by NAI Pfefferly. It had some great information regarding the industrial, office, retail, and multifamily markets. So really nice kind of a real estate overview. Not a lot of certainly earth-shattering observations in there for us, but some real numbers behind some of the things that we were assuming anecdotally that was going on in the marketplace going forward. So some good information that's going to help direct some of our marketing efforts and our recruitment efforts, I think, for some of the real estate ideas we're looking at going forward. I want to shout out to Matt Buchanan. I think hopefully Matt's still on. I'm not sure if he is or not. Matt has done some good work with the this Parklet program. Folks are familiar with that and recall that that was a program for getting different users and restaurants to maybe establish a presence, a little bit more of a presence outdoors and out on some of our city streets. He also has been very critical in working on the shared corridor vision plan that's kind of identifying more opportunities for bicycles, pedestrians, and kind of making some of those roadways a little bit more friendlier to some alternative transportation efforts. Both of those efforts have gone through our Economic Development Authority and then received some feedback and gotten those approvals. We're kind of getting ready to finalize some applications for the Parklet program, and then hopefully we'll be implementing the shared corridor plan as we go forward. And then I think, as Cheryl mentioned, you previously working with Laura Slayer, our public arts coordinator, on kind of finalizing some of this, the TIF related policies related to public arts, some of the rules in that and how those things get reviewed and approved going forward. So hopefully going to be having an update we bringing forward on this that includes the kind of the program guidelines, what the approval process is, the standard procedures for reviewing those and kind of managing those projects as they come forward. So Laura's done some great work so far, and that's hopefully going to be having an update for you here at the May meeting. So with that, available for any questions, Mr. Chair.
Neil, did you want to mention the mural that's going to go on that temporarily on the Associated Bank Lock building, the garage?
I'm trying to figure exactly which one was that. I can't remember what exactly the mural itself was, but yeah, we did actually give what's the artist's name? Cheryl,
I think Laura. Are you on the line? Laura Schley?
I am here. Hello.
There we go. Even better, I will let Laura explain exactly what that project was.
Let me get the image up so that I can share it with you guys here. Bo Thomas, as you may know, very talented local muralist, has proposed to put a new mural on the Associated Bank building lot. Let me just bring it up here quick. My apologies.
It's okay. We can't drop this one on you, Laura. No problem. We'll give you a couple seconds here.
I was like, oh yeah, I got to do. All right.
Here it comes.
Oh, beautiful.
So,
I love it.
Bo is aware that the building is eventually going to be taken down. He's aware that this is a temporary site, and really just wants another opportunity to get some artwork up around the community.
Beautiful.
Well, love it.
Yeah.
Watch for that here very shortly, I think so.
Very good. So Neil, you having fun? You've been busy?
Absolutely. No, it's been, it's great to see some of these projects moving forward that have been, obviously with COVID and then going into the fall last year and then certainly being down the director. So I think some things slowed down a little bit. I think they're thawing out and speeding up here as we go forward. So look to hopefully a really kind of an exciting May meeting. Hopefully be bringing back several projects and some revisions and getting some more things going. So if we think this one was a big one, we think May could even be a little bit bigger. Fingers crossed. Staff's bringing several agreements might be coming forward, hopefully by our May meeting. So so far so good, Chair. So far so good.
We very much appreciate your enthusiasm and positive attitude. Very, very well appreciated. Thank you. For staff, for the mayor, anybody from the RDA, got any comments or questions?
Just that I'm working on getting you another member, Gary, and appreciate you zooming in today for that. So
yeah, you're right. Double my pay. I appreciate that. All right.
Oh, I have one question. Are we going to go back to in person anytime soon?
So I talked to Neil about that. He's thinking maybe
Or
June.
am I way too soon for that?
You think
Yeah,
by
I think
June?
what we're doing, Kathy, is what we're doing is certainly we're following the lead of the mayor and council, and when they kind of get their procedures in place,
Right.
and we get some cover, and then they're going to be our test subjects in terms of kind of figuring out having maybe a hybrid meeting, some in person, some virtual, how that might work, and exactly what their guidelines will be. So we should know. I think they're going to establish that in May. Mayor, if I correct me if I'm wrong,
Correct.
and then probably maybe look to have something and maybe enacted by June. That's assuming all the numbers keep hopefully going the right direction. I think at this point.
Right.
Yeah, so
Okay,
that's correct.
that's
I
good
will
to
be.
hear. I was just
Yep, that's a good
anxious
question.
to see people.
Yep, and I will be bringing forward a plan to City Council for the first meeting in May. And then, so we'll have that discussion and that debate, and then we'll have a plan in place both for council and all of our boards, commissions, and committees.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Mayor.
Any other questions or comments for the mayor or staff?
Keep up the good work. You guys are doing great.
Yes.
Another great meeting. I appreciate everybody.
Yep, that synergy is there.
All right. Our next meeting will be May 11th at 1:30. I definitely should be back from Arizona and Colorado, wherever. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Alder
I'll
Dorf,
second it.
Second.
Kathy and Alder Dorf. All those in favor, sing aye.
Aye.
Very good. Thanks. Have a great day.
Aye.